This video introduces machine learning. You will understand what we mean by the term machine learning model, and you will have a clear understanding of the basics that are required to perform machine learning. What is machine learning? You have a set of data, and if the machine has the capability to learn patterns from the set of data, then it is called machine learning. And that set of data that you have is called as a data set. What you see is a data set with multiple data points. Do you see any pattern among the data points or the set of data that are represented in the graph? None. So can you apply a machine learning model to learn a pattern on this data set? In reality, when you try to apply a machine learning model on a data set like this, which has no pattern, it will still spit out a pattern, but what the machine learning model has given you as output is not representative of the data set. It has tried to figure out some pattern that does not exist and gives a wrong representation of the data. So do not try to find patterns on a data set that does not have any patterns. What machine learning tries to do is, it tries to learn the patterns which are present in the data set. So what does the machine learn? What do you mean by this term, the machine learning model? So what does my machine try to learn from this data set? It tries to learn how hours playing and marks are related to each other. And my machine learning model has figured out that y is equal to minus x plus 17 is the way hours playing and marks are related. So if I want a particular mark, I have to just plug in the hours playing in minus hours playing plus 17 and I will get the corresponding mark. Marks is dependent on hours playing, so it is called the dependent variable, and hours playing is called the independent variable. I use the word variable to represent the column names. I can also use the word feature there. I can also use the word attribute there. I have some 12 rows. Each one of it is called as a data object, or I can call it as a sample, or I call it as a row or a data object. They all mean one and the same. My machine learned this equation with the help of the data set. So the task that my machine has now done is called as regression. It has figured out how does marks depend on hours playing with the help of the data set. It has represented the data points using an equation. And that equation that I have used to represent my entire data set is called as the machine learning model. My machine tried to learn this equation or try to find this model because in future, if I get a value which is not part of the data set, it can predict the marks. For example, I do not have what is the marks when the hours spent playing is 7.5 hours. Now all I have to do is plug in the value 7.5 in the place of x and I get the new value for the marks. Another useful application of regression is when you get a data set, it is very common in the real world that you get lot of data values which are missing. If it involves numbers, a very simple way to replace the missing values is by performing regression. What if the data points are related like the one given in the right top? It's a curvilinear relationship, and the model that the machine learns is f of x is equal to 2x squared plus 3. What if the data points are related in a manner given in the bottom left? Then the machine learns the model as f of x is equal to x cubed minus 26x plus 2. Summarizing, my data points can be related to each other in any manner, but the machine tries to learn that equation that represents the entire data set. Based on the type of equation it finds and how it finds the equation, we have different types of regression. So what is a machine learning model? Our first takeaway is, if the machine learning task is that of regression, the model is an equation that represents the entire set of data. Let us look at a data set that figures out if a person can own a house or does not own a house. And for that, it bases the ownership of a house on two features, namely the age and the income. I now represent my entire data set using a graph like this. What are the data points? In the Cartesian plane, what is the x-axis and what is the y-axis? How many features do we have in the data set? We have two features, namely the age and income. I can have one feature along the x-axis and the next feature along the y-axis, and the third feature class label, I represent it or differentiate the various classes using a color coding. If you look at this graph, I have represented three dimensions, namely the age, the income, and if they own a house or not. The data points represent the value of the age and the income for a particular row. The work of the machine is now to learn an equation that separates those data points which represent owning a house to those data points that represent the fact that the person does not own a house. When a machine learns an equation to separate the data points, the machine learning task that we are performing is called as classification. Here it tries to find a line y is equal to wx plus b, and this line separates the classes. The machine learning model that we have found out is y is equal to wx plus b. Looking at it in a more intuitive manner, it tries to find an equation where it assigns a weightage for each of the features and to give an output score which will differentiate the classes. What the machine tries to learn is, first it takes the first data object, takes the value of age as 22, income as 2 lakhs, gives it in the equation, figures out for what values of W1, W2 and B this data point will fall on the 0 side of the line. Then it takes the age as 41, 90,000, applies it, and then changes the values of W1, W2 and B such that this data object falls on the one side of the line. Like this, it keeps taking one by one the data object, observes the data, goes through the data, sees what the class label is, and then tries to change the value of W1, W2 and B, and by the time it reads the entire data set, it has come to a conclusion that if the values of W1, W2 and B are such and such, then all the data points in which the class label is no will fall on one side of the line, and all the data points for which the class label is yes will fall on the other side of the line. So what does the model learn? It learns the equation plus W2 income plus B. The model learns W1, W2 and B. It has no control over age and income values because they come from the data set. So the parameters the model tries to learn are the weightage W1, W2 and B. Why did the model learn this equation? When you are asking a question, I have a new person who is coming in with age 29 and income of 5,50,000. Will he own a house or will he not own a house? Depending on where this data point falls, immediately the classifier says whether the class label is 1 or 0. Going back to the same question, what is a machine learning model in a classification task? It is an equation that separates different types of data. At this juncture, let's stick with this definition for a machine learning model in a classifier, but we will learn further down the video that it need not just be an equation. How did my machine learn? It took the data objects, saw what the class label should be. Based on the supervision of the class label, it decided how the equation should be formed. The basis for forming the equation was the class label. With the help of the class label, if the machine learns a model, it's called as supervised learning. What is this keyword data set that we give so much of importance to? We need to first acquire the data for the machine to learn. So where do we get this data from? We either get it from the programming language itself. For example, if you use R or Python, there are many inbuilt data sets. You can work on it. Or you can collect the publicly available data set. Where are they available? They are available in quite a lot of websites. All you have to do is just go and check publicly available data set for medicine or for stock market prediction. You will get a huge list. But I find Kaggle to have quite a lot of data sets which are very useful to work with. Let's say you are starting to do a research and you need a data set. You did not find an inbuilt data set. You did not find it in the public repository. So what do? You create your own data set. When you're working with a new problem and a very niche problem, you will most probably end up creating your own data set. So many problem statements that you think you can solve. But when you start working on the machine learning aspect of the problem, you realize that you do not have sufficient data set. So what do? Either you create a data set, which I assure you is a very cumbersome and one of the most difficult processes, or you might even shell the project. You decide not to take up that problem and rather go for another problem for which you have the data set already available. What am I getting at? Getting a good data set for your problem is a challenge. If you do not get a good data set, and very specifically if you want a labeled data set, the time taken to create the data set is pretty huge. If you created your own data set, you might probably know what's inside of the data set. But as I mentioned, 90% of the time you will be working with data set which you've taken from some public repository. And when you start working on the data set, you have no idea what is inside the data set. So the first thing you will do is you will start with an exploratory data analysis. Are we still in machine learning? Yes, we are still in machine learning. But to get to the part of machine learning, there are some prerequisites. The first thing is understand your data set. To understand your data set, explore your data set, find the types of variables, find the number of variables, find the mean, median, and mode of the variables. Understand your data set. You can use data visualization for that or just plain statistics. One type of data set that I will be working with are the structured data set, which is just a table with beautiful rows and columns. Every column represents a feature and every row represents a data object. What is the task at hand? The task at hand is to figure out if a person will own a house or not based on the given features. Please note the word based on the given features. So if you say it is based on the given features, does the customer ID decide whether a person will own a house or not? The customer ID does not help to know whether a person is going to own a house or not. It is not a differentiating factor to know if a person will own a house or not. So what shall I do? I remove the customer ID. An important step in machine learning is to remove the unwanted features. You do not want the machine learning model to try to fit the customer ID and the own house. Now I have a look at my data set. I look at the features. I see what are the features that will add value to finding the class label. What are the features that will not add value? Based on that, I select my features. Machine learning models that are available always have a prerequisite. They say on what kind of data they can work with. For example, I can have a classifier which says, I work only on continuous data. So what do? In this particular case, I have considered only those data which are continuous and I'm creating my classification model. Fine, I figured out what are my continuous valued attributes, and then I started thinking, let me give it to the classifier as an input. But when I have a look at my data set, I find that there is an anomaly here. The age, the smallest value is 22 and the highest value goes up to 64. Whereas when I say income, the smallest value is 40,000 and the highest value is 2,50,000. If I give it to a classifier, please note a classifier mostly works on mathematics, and the bigger the value, it is always assumed more the importance. But here in our particular example, we do not want income to have an advantage over age. We want the model to look at age and income in the same manner. So what do? We normalize the data. We ensure that the range of the data values for every feature that we feed into the machine learning classifier is one and the same. To summarize what we just saw, we just cannot feed a data set to a machine learning classifier or a machine learning model in the same way that we receive it. There might be quite a lot of things you might have to work on the data set and prepare it in such a way that the machine learning model accepts it and is able to give the right output. So what are the pre-processing you need to do? Remove the noisy data. How do you remove the noisy data? If it's continuous valued, you remove all the outliers. What do you mean by continuous value? You have real values. You can remove the outliers. If it's an image, let's say you have a noise, salt and pepper noise, the very common noise, use filters and remove it. Depending on the type of data that you're working on, apply the correct methodology and remove the noise. What if it is missing data? You can use the measures of central tendency like the mean, median, and insert the appropriate value there, or you can use regression. What if the data values are of different scales? You normalize the data. Some of the common normalization techniques are min-max and z-score. Please note that I'm not trying to give an exhaustive list of possibilities. I'm trying to throw some words so that when you are taking it from here, you know where to go and look for to proceed in your project. Another common thing that is required is a machine learning model might say, I will work on input data sets which follow this distribution. So you have to be aware of the distribution and you have to be aware of how to change the distribution from what it currently is to what is expected. A simple takeaway in this slide: to do machine learning, you need to know your statistics well and you need to know your probability well. So is my data set in a form that can be fed to the machine learning model? Still the answer is a no. Most of the machine learning models will not perform well if there is a dependence between the variables. So normally when you start a machine learning project, the first thing you would probably do is put a correlation matrix, find the correlation between the features, and if two features are highly correlated to each other, you will remove one feature. Not removing the correlation results in very bad output. For example, if you have a feature in which the data values are highly skewed, your machine learning model cannot work with it. It will probably give you a prerequisite saying, I will work only on data which are normally distributed. Sometimes the distribution will look skewed, but if you want to transform it into a normal distribution, you will probably take the square root. Sometimes your distribution might look like an exponential distribution. In that case, taking the natural logarithm of the data values will just convert it into a normal distribution. Another common transformation which is used is the Box-Cox transformation, which has a tendency to convert non-normal variables into a normal distribution. This is just to give you an indicator that you have to first figure out the distribution of your data, and there are methods to convert them to the type of distribution that is expected. So use the appropriate method and convert the distribution. We are using so many terms and words interchangeably. Whenever you come across the word feature, dimension, property, variable, characteristic, it all refers to the term attribute. And every row that we looked at in the structured data set can also be called as a record, a point, a vector, an event, a case, a sample, an observation, or an entity. The first type of data structure that we were exposed to was a structured data set where every column had beautiful features. But now I have an unstructured data set, which is a text data set. Here, the reviews are given and the corresponding sentiments are given. The sentiments are the class labels. Simple to figure that out. But what are the features? There are many reviews. And when I was working with the structured data, I had a graph, I had an x-axis, I had a y-axis, I had plotted some data points. Looking at this slide, is there any way I can convert it to that kind of a graphical structure? So let's first identify the features. There are many ways you can decide on the features. The task at hand in this particular data set is, given a review, I want to figure out if the sentiment in the review is positive or negative. I can take each and every word to represent the sentiment. In that case, every single word becomes a feature. But since the problem is a sentiment analysis task, I know that the adverbs and the adjectives would rather be a better feature to represent the class. The and rooms and where are not going to add any value to figure out the sentiment, but rather good, light, bad, unpleasant, nice, pleasant, and rude are adding value to figure out the class. I have decided on my features, but where do I get the numbers from? A very common way to represent a text using numbers, and also a very old way of representation, is use a term document matrix. If you learn text analysis, you will find many other ways of representing it. Currently, we use something called as word embeddings also. But the whole idea is, if I can represent the features using numbers. So what are the numbers I'm using to represent my feature? The frequency with which it occurs in a review. Good occurs twice in review 1, once in review 4, and once in review 5. I have now represented my feature good using a vector of dimension 5. What are the values in the vector good? 2, 0, 0, 1, 1. How do I represent light? It is 1, 0, 1, 0, 0. If I represent features using vectors, I am using the vector space model. How many dimensions are we expecting? What are the data points? How many data points are we expecting? When I have to represent this using the graph that we had before, now what are the axes? What is the x-axis? What is the y-axis? How many axes are there in the Cartesian plane? What are the data points? I have 7 features, and so I have 7 different axes in the Cartesian coordinate plane. Good, light, bad, unpleasant, nice, pleasant, and rude. I have 7 different axes or dimensions. For easy understanding, so that it is easier for us to visualize at 2 dimensions rather than 7 dimensions, let me assume that there are only 2 dimensions, good and light. So good is along the x-axis, light is along the y-axis, and the points that I plot are 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 2, 1. Each of these data points represent a different review. So to conclude, the features are along the axis and the documents or the reviews are the number of data points. In the example given, there were 5 reviews, and so the number of data points is 5. The second type of unstructured data set is the image data set. Some of the features of the images that we will work on are the color, the shape, the edges, the corners, the feature descriptors. Based on the type of data that we deal with, pre-processing varies. We've looked at structured data, we've looked at unstructured data. Now let's have a look at the semi-structured data. The most common type of data that you will be dealing with when you download from the publicly available dataset is a JSON format or an XML format, CSV format, which is a comma separated values, or the TSV format, which are tab separated values. Let us see some more on classification. When you try to perform classification, you need to know what type of classification you are performing on your dataset. The first common type of classification that you will perform is binary classification. When you say a binary classification, there are only 2 possible classes. Either it falls into the 1 class or the 0 class. In this particular example, we see whether the class is parakeet or not a parakeet. Classifiers like logistic regression and SVM are basically binary classifiers. The second type of classification is a multi-class classification. Here, the number of class labels can be more than 2. It is common practice that even though the class labels are usually categorical variables like parakeet, oriole, or lapwing, they are associated with numbers for easier classification. In binary and multi-class classification, the classifier outputs a single class. Consider a scenario in which an image is given and you are asking the classifier to classify it into water, bird, plant, flowers, mountain, etc. If the classifier is forced to give one class as output, it would not be the right way to classify this image, because there are multiple classes which are present in this image. Multi-label classification assigns more than one class to a given data object. A common way of assigning more than one class to a data object is using softmax classifier. One way of deciding what classifier you need is by checking if your problem statement requires binary classification, multi-class classification, or multi-label classification. Another way of checking what type of classifier you need to use is to check if the problem that you are solving is linearly separable. If you can draw a single line and separate the various classes, it is said to be linearly separable. As the number of dimensions increases, so does the dimension of the separator. Can you classify the given data points using one single line? Remember, two different classes are given, one represented using the red dots and the other represented using the blue dots. We find that a single line cannot be used to separate the two classes, but rather a circle can be drawn to separate the two classes. This kind of a classifier finds a boundary that is a circle, and this is called as a nonlinear classifier. The linear classifier uses a linear combination of the weights and the data points to get the classifier, whereas a nonlinear classifier uses a nonlinear function. Some of the examples of linear classifiers are LDA, naive Bayes, SVM, and perceptron. Nonlinear classifiers are KNN, kernel SVM, decision tree, and the multi-layered perceptron. Remember, SVM is a linear classifier, whereas to perform nonlinear classification, we use what is called as the kernel trick. The linear classifier solves a problem using this model. It uses the concept of the dot product of two vectors. W and X are two vectors. X represents the features, W the weight associated with the features, and the linear classifier is Y is equal to W dot X plus W naught. Based on whether the classifier uses the data itself or the distribution of the data, we classify the classifier as generative models and discriminative models. Some of the generative models that uses probability are LDA, naive Bayes, Gaussian mixture models, and variational autoencoders. Some of the classifiers that follow the discriminative kind are logistic regression, SVM, decision tree, and neural networks. So far we have seen that when we say a machine learning classifier, it's an equation. We are now introducing a machine learning model that does not use an equation but rather a set of if-then rules to classify the two classes. If the marital status is married, and if the person owns a sedan, and if the gender is female, then they own the house. This machine learning classifier uses a set of if-then rules to separate the different types of data. Going back to the problem of sentiment analysis, there are classifiers like the naive Bayes which use probability rather than equations and if-then rules. These type of classifiers find the probability of getting a class given the features. The probability is calculated for the various classes. The classifier finally outputs that class for which the probability value is the maximum. This shows that the machine learning model can be a conditional density function that separates the different types of data. Consider the problem of regression. If the machine learns a model that perfectly fits all the data points in the data set, then we have a perfect model, but when a new value comes which is not part of the data set, the machine learning model will not be able to predict it in a manner that we expect it to. To improve the quality of the machine learning model, when new values come in, we do not want to fit all the data points in the dataset perfectly, but rather we want a generalized model that will fit the dataset, but not necessarily every single point is accommodated for. If we have a machine learning model that tries to learn the dataset exactly, it is termed as overfitting and it is not a good model. On the other hand, it is possible that the machine learns a model which does not represent the training set at all. In this case, it is said to underfit the dataset. What we are expecting is a model that fits the dataset, is able to generalize the dataset, but does not perfectly fit the dataset. We want to avoid overfitting and underfitting. Assume the machine is given a task to group these birds. On what basis will it group these birds? It might group it on the basis of size. Different color frames are given to denote the different possible groups. The machine can group it on the basis of color. The machine can group it based on where they are usually found, their location, the structure of the beak. There are many factors with which your machine can learn how to group these birds. There are two ways the problem can be stated. The first, group these birds. The second, group these birds on the basis of their color. In the first question that was asked, it was not mentioned on what basis it had to group these birds. I did not need any labeling. But whereas when the second question was asked, it was very specific to group these birds on the basis of the color. The second falls under the category of classification and the first falls under the category of clustering. So when the birds are grouped using a machine learning model, you have no idea to know on what basis the birds were grouped. It finds some similarity between the images and groups them. This type of learning, in which the class label is not required, is called unsupervised learning. When a client comes and gives you a data set, the most common thing that can happen is he will not be having a labeled data set. So what kind of information can you give immediately to your client? You can perform clustering on the data and give them an immediate result. Getting a labeled data might sometimes just not be possible. There are many clustering algorithms, and to name a few, we have the k-means, k-medoids, and the agglomerative clustering. When the machine clusters the following data points using k-means, we give as input the number of clusters that we expect. In this case, it is 5. The machine learns those centroids for the 5 clusters around which the data points are similar. Ultimately, there will be 5 centroids that are produced by this machine learning model, and when a new data point comes, that centroid to which the new data point is nearer, when I use the word nearer, it can be figured out using the Euclidean distance, and then the new data point is assigned to that cluster. So one way of representing a clustering model is to have a set of data points that represent the entire cluster. The machine is now fed with the following birds and their feeding habits. When the machine analyzes the feeding habits, it realizes that except the sunbird, every other bird that is mentioned feeds on insects. The sunbird feeds on nectar. Finding the odd man out or the outlier is a very important machine learning task called as outlier analysis. A simple way to analyze the outliers is to draw a box and whisker plot. In the box and whisker plot on income, there is a data point which is away from the data set, and this is an outlier. We remove outliers or we trigger an event when we encounter an outlier. Another simple but effective way to find outliers is using standard deviation. Calculate the mean and standard deviation of the data values and mark the values falling outside 3 or 4 standard deviation from the mean as outliers. Assume you are conducting a survey and creating a data set on the lifestyle and habits of people. If the machine can find interesting patterns between the variables, then it is termed as association rule mining. Rule-based machine learning takes a data set and finds the interesting rules in it. For example, it is found that if a person does yoga, cycling, and goes for outdoor games, there is a 70% chance that they will buy spinach. These rules are given along with the support and confidence, where support says how frequently the if part and the then part appears in a relationship, and the confidence says how many times these relations were found to be true. Basic knowledge on training dataset and test dataset is essential to perform machine learning. In a dataset, a portion of it is used to create the model and a portion of it is used to evaluate the model. When I create the machine learning model, I use only those portions which I have earmarked for creating the model. I do not take the entire dataset. In the portion earmarked for creating the dataset, I again divide it into two parts. One is called as the training dataset and one is called as the validation dataset. And the dataset that I use to evaluate the model is called as the test dataset. Some of the common splits are 80% and 20%, 70% and 30%. This is the most common split, or even 40% and 60%. Out of the portion earmarked to create the model, 10% is set aside as the validation dataset. When the model that we are using has parameters, to decide the correct values of the parameters, we make use of the validation dataset. This dataset has 14 rows or data objects. 70% is set aside as the training dataset and is used to create the model. To check if the model that we have created is good, to check its performance, we make use of the 30% test set. 10% of the records is set aside as the validation set to fine-tune the parameters. To summarize, how do I implement a machine learning project? First, I acquire the data, I analyze the data set, I pre-process the data, I find the features in the data set. The actual learning by the machine is a single phase in a series of steps. I check if it is working correctly. If it is not working correctly, I tune the parameters for better result. The last step is as important as every other step. How do I evaluate the performance of my model? We have evaluation metrics. Each machine learning task has a different set of evaluation metrics. If it is regression, we would use an R-square, RMSE, RSE or an MAE. If it is classification, we will use a confusion matrix, precision, recall, F1, accuracy, AUC-ROC curve. If it is clustering, we might use adjusted RAND index, Fox-Mallow score, homogeneity, completeness, Silhouette coefficient, or the Davis-Baldwin index. For what type of applications can I use machine learning? Use machine learning for any application that is able to give you enough data to work on. When choosing the programming language, choose the programming language based on the application you are going to work on, and the top 10 programming languages as given are Python, C++, Java, JavaScript, C#, R, Julia, Go, TypeScript and Scala.